You know what's kind of crazy? Did you guys know I've been doing this for 3 years?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm, where I'm your host Peter, aka LPD Dubuque, the cringiest glover on YouTube.
Congratulations! Whee!
Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling.
Please go away.
So what is it this week that I want to talk about? Well, if you guys didn't see from the very beginning of this episode, we're gonna be talking about pretty much me, and not trying to make it sound selfish, but yeah, it's going to be kind of about me. Mostly, I want to just kind of have this moment of reflection, like another little... I haven't done this in a while, actually. I haven't done a Gloving Fireside Lessons like episode where we kind of just sit here and just simply talk, because that's what I do on this channel, is just talk a lot. Which, you know, it's understandable to a lot of people. People have come to learn and realize how much of an extensive knowledge I'm able to sit here and discuss about when it comes to this particular project of the Gloving Paradigm. You know, it's the reason why I named it the Gloving Paradigm, is because gloving has evolved to a point where it has its own set of paradigm. Hence the name.
Hey, that's pretty good.
But to a lot of my loyal listeners from the very beginning, we're around that time of the year where you guys know what came around, and I felt like it was necessary to have another conversation about it again. Kind of. More of just, when it comes to Sebastian's anniversary, we tend to use this as a moment of reflection. And since I've been doing this for 3 years, I think it's actually time to have a good, nice reflection on my content and pretty much kind of give my aspirations to somebody who may be considering making content for gloving, which I highly encourage. If you're thinking about making content for gloving or making it for the gloving community, I highly suggest doing so, because we do not have enough. Like, yes, we do have our tutorial makers, and then you have people who are hosting comps, which in essence is kind of like content creating ish. I would say people who are covering comp coverage like I did and what Genghis Wrath is doing, that's a little bit more of content creation for gloving, but I think that's kind of getting down to the semantics. So, yeah, this is pretty much just going to be an episode about me reflecting on the past 3 years of making content for gloving and just imparting my wisdom that I gained from doing this, as weird as it sounds.
You're an inspiration to all of us. I mean.
Okay, so my first lesson that I learned when it came to making gloving content, especially in the very recent past year, as in, you know, what we had to deal with, and me moving over to video rather than just being an audio-only podcast. That was a very big, important lesson for me, personally, just because, one, I had zero editing experience when it came to video and not audio. Therefore, when I started making changes to the audio part of the podcast before I jumped over to video, it was very concerning for me to sit there and be like, well, how do I learn to do this besides just going on YouTube? Even though that's kind of what I did. I went on YouTube and watched tutorials. You know, the thing that everyone always likes to tell people to do when it comes to learning stuff. You know, instead of like going to college. Because if you go to college, you're having people tell you the same thing. You're just paying exuberant amounts of money to have that told to you?
It's funny because it's true.
Now, please don't get me wrong. If you're going to college, if you're going to university, good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm very happy that you have decided to go and achieve a higher level of education. Everyone should have that. Education to me is a very important thing. I like the idea of people who want to learn more to have access to the ability to learn more. Do I feel like it should be more free than the exuberant charges that people get in college and university? Yes, because it's ridiculous how you have to be internally in debt in order to actually have the knowledge to be successful at a career from the people who don't necessarily do that career. Yeah. So I will certainly say that if you're somebody who's been considering, thinking, pondering, aspiring to make gloving content, to be a gloving content creator, one, I highly suggest it, because we do not have enough in the community for some reason. I don't understand why. And I can hear from the distance of people angrily typing in the comment section saying that anyone who makes a light show video and posts it on the internet is making content for gloving. I don't necessarily think that counts.
What?
If you want to sit there and say that you're a content creator, because I feel like you're underselling somebody like myself, but to other people who are also making content outside of just light show videos, you're really underselling them, especially the tutorial people. Like, don't get me wrong, we have some pretty old, outdated, well, I wouldn't say outdated, but I would say dated videos in terms of tutorials out there. But we do have at least 2 known people who are really pushing the envelope in terms of the quality of tutorials and how to break down a tutorial and how to demonstrate. The Lighthouse is doing a perfect one, and Lucy Drop is doing a perfect one. Like, these 2 are doing fantastic work when it comes to the tutorial ones. They're bringing a modern element to the tutorial scene that I really feel is very, very much needed within this sphere of a community. Now I've had people ask me, well, why don't you do tutorials? Well, it's because these 2 are already doing it, and that's not what my podcast was about or is about. My podcast is literally to discuss and cover topics within the gloving community as a whole, because there's just more stuff outside of tutorials and light shows when it comes to gloving. We have the social aspect, the competitive aspect. We have gloving theory, the ideas and thought process that people need to start adapting and adopting into their collective minds here type deal to perform a lot of these different concepts and techniques and patterns that we know within gloving. There's also these aesthetics within gloving that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, and that's where I try to fill in that hole as much as I try to do. With very little success, sure, maybe. But it's interesting to sit here and say that, because I've actually asked a lot of people, like, is it just me being really bad at marketing? Which, yes, I am very, very bad at. But I've asked other people, like, what is it that, makes it so difficult when it comes to me gaining more numbers and having more people watch my stuff? And it's interesting that the responses I got was more of a reflection on the community as a whole rather than just me as an individual. Like, yeah, I accept the fact that I'm not the most likable person within the gloving community. I even accept the fact that I'm the most ignored person in the community. It's a product of people's opinions and things of that. And I'm not going to sit here and, try to force people to change their opinions because, I throw out some big giant buzzwords about it and what all, because that's not how it's going to work. And that doesn't make it any better. But a lot of people told me that it's more of a reflection on the community as a whole in terms of bringing new people in, bringing fresh blood, new ideas, whatever the case may, whatever you want to put here, bringing greener grass into the lawn, as my mom probably would say, which I know, but my mom has a lot of old sayings. But the more I started thinking about that, the more it's starting to make a little bit more sense, because you start actually watching the influx or lack of influx of new glovers. And I think that does really kind of showcase a reflection on the community as a whole. Why are so many people so adamant about staying on Facebook when it comes to the gloving community rather than branching out onto other platforms? And I get it. So many people are going to be like, well, YouTube isn't that much better. Yes, I get that. However, it's more publicly accessible. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't make any sense to put our content behind a privacy wall that people can't stumble upon. Like, you know what I mean? And it's weird. You know, and now I will admit, I'm not a huge fan of jumping onto new platforms of social media. I really just don't like social media, period. The only reason why I still use it today is because the only way I can reach people as an audience is through social media. It is a double-edged sword, a necessary evil, as much as I hate to call it a necessary evil, because I really don't think it's a necessary evil. Besides the point. But there is this strong aversion for people to really push onto platforms that make it much more publicly accessible. It's probably why we still deal with the stigmas that we still deal with today that we've been dealing since 2010. The age-old stigma of, well, you can't enjoy a light show unless you're on drugs. That's just not a thing anymore. Like, it's 2021, okay? It's been 11 years since that has happened, and this whole idea that it's still being perpetuated to so many people, it's just, come on.
Who said that?
Alright, what's the second lesson that I learned? Well, the second lesson to me when it came to content creation and gloving is video is very important when it comes to gloving. You know, I thought when I first started doing this, I was sticking in an area of comfort that I was familiar with. Audio only podcast was something I'm familiar with because this isn't my first podcast. It isn't. Surprisingly enough, to a lot of people, when they hear what my first podcast was about, they're like, what, really? Why didn't that take off? Because it's really popular. Well, I'll explain here in a minute. So, to the people who don't know, my very first podcast I did was a Magic the Gathering podcast. And I thought it would be this really cool idea of me to use this as a year-long challenge to document my reports of me going to a locals and doing F&M and reporting back what I understand about the meta and things like that, and kind of show people how I actually go to understand the meta. And it just kind of revolted into a echo chamber of just spilling out the same news that everyone was talking about. And yeah, that didn't really work out for me. Not only that, it first started out with me and my younger brother trying to do this thing together, and then my younger brother bailing out on it. Yeah. So another lesson learned there, don't rely on family to help you make content like this when they don't want to. But then again, I think that's more of a personal family thing than a public thing. But just want to put it out there, don't rely on family to help you make content.
5 minutes later.
But yeah, video is very important when it comes to gloving. And I feel really, really dumb for resisting making video content for a while. And yes, that's mostly just because it's video content, editing, you know, you have to add all these other different bells and whistles that I really felt overwhelmed just thinking about doing, you know. But if it wasn't for the gloving community, especially the people on Discord, you know who I'm talking about, who pushed me to move to video, I can't thank you guys enough, because yeah, my first few videos were not that great. Some people said they were extremely over edited, which I definitely agree, because I took bad advice from other YouTube channels, like the idea of, to make a good video is you cram in as much meme stuff you can in there, because that's what gets the kids to watch your stuff. Why did I ever think that was a good idea? Now, I'm sure you guys have noticed that I've pulled away from putting in so many memes or cutting in so many memes into my videos, which, yes, that is certainly true. Because I have learned when to cut those in, when not to cut those in. Mostly just because I've had other projects that I've done that too, and people have pointed that out to me, that you don't need to put that much. You just gotta let, you know, what was happening was I was smothering my audience with, look at all the memes. You know, and that's not what the audience wants. The audience wants to have this flow through of your video that they can understand, relate, and all that stuff, and be able to walk away from your videos and be like, I learned something today. Not, oh wow, that was just a thing to watch. So yeah, another huge valuable lesson that when it comes to making content creation for gloving, video is very important because a lot of people when it comes to the gloving community are visual learners, myself included. So it makes no sense to me whatsoever anymore when it comes to my idea of why I thought it was important to stay audio only. I don't know, maybe because I just didn't want to show my face. Who knows? I kind of just stopped giving a crap after a while. So if there's any important lessons that I would impart on anybody who's considering making content for gloving is, yes, video is very important. Do not be afraid to experiment with your video editing. It's how I was able to get to where I am now with my video editing and getting the consistency down. A lot of people have expressed to me that it's a lot easier to watch my stuff as I started cleaning up my process on how I edit my videos. And not only that, it keeps them engaged. So, yay. You know, I certainly hope that if you are trying or considering making it, go ahead and make it. You can definitely ask me any questions of what I've learned through my video editing process, because not only am I mostly self-taught, but yeah, I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I just, typed up video editing tutorials and literally just scoured through hundreds and hundreds of different videos, especially during my break time at work. So I can actually keep that going. The third lesson that I would definitely say after the 3 years of doing this is that there's still I didn't really think that I would actually hit a point of making it to 3 years of making content like this, because I felt that I would hit a point where I have nothing more to talk about. And that's not necessarily the case. There's always going to be these new topics that come up. I actually have another episode idea that's coming around the corner that I'm going to be working on, that I see from the community, and a lot of talk about the community, and getting more community engagement. So be sure to tune in for that one. But there's always a topic of discussion from the community that you can always make content about. Is it sometimes repeating yourself? Yeah, but to me, I find it very important to address topics that the community is talking about. Not necessarily hot button topics, even though those are good ones. But if you see a topic that, is just getting a lot of attention that people are talking about, it's a good point to actually just sit there and go through what people are talking about and formulate your own opinions from there. Because you actually see where the community engagement is kind of lying, where the consensus is lying, things like that. But if you're somebody that's out there and thinking, oh, well, you can't sit there and make a lot of gloving content because there's just not that much stuff to talk about within gloving, can I point to my nearly 150 episodes that I have made in 3 years talking about gloving? So yeah, and a very important lesson to me is that if you want to make content for gloving and you don't have any topic ideas, just look around and see what the community is talking about. They always have something to talk about, whether it's a controversial thing or not. It's one of the things that I will certainly say when it comes to certain controversial topics, I tend to stay away from them because it's really more about the matter of opinion within the public sphere, public reception of those topics, and I don't know. A lot of the times I feel like people don't really want to hear my opinion about it. They either want to hear if I align with their opinions or if I don't. And I really don't like that whole idea, because to me that tells me that no one's open to the idea of having an open conversation about these things and having just a disagreement and being able to walk away on a disagreement and being okay with going, well, I don't agree with this person, he doesn't agree with me, or she doesn't agree with me, or they don't agree with me, But it doesn't matter. We can still coexist. You know. One of the reasons why I don't really actually talk about the reception of the companies that the gloving community has is just because, one, I just really find that boring. You know what I mean? We're talking about businesses, and once we start talking about businesses, then we start talking about how economics work, and then how people want to sit here and immediately start jumping the gun to things like capitalism and corporatism, even though corporatism is a thing, and even that topic in itself is starting to get backlash because people want to say that corporatism isn't a real thing, even though it is. You know, it's the thing that leads to our cyberpunk worlds like The Matrix, Blade Runner, and all that stuff. Just want to point that out.
Nobody asked you, so why don't you just take a hike?
By the way, did you guys know that WALL-E technically counts as a cyberpunk genre thing? Because it shows a post-apocalyptic world that was ran by a giant corporation? No, you didn't care about that? Okay.
A few minutes later.
Okay, so the last thing I think we can talk about is if Sebastian was here today, how would he feel about my podcast? Well, one, in all honesty, I think he would just be happy because not only did I start something that I was very passionate about, which yes, is me talking about gloving because I am very passionate about gloving as an art style and as an art form altogether, and I want to share that with everybody and show that it isn't this gamer mentality of Gamergate thought process where it's just all this competitive stuff. You know, the gaming world has that for them, and we shouldn't have it for us. You know, we should be our own thing. And the entire idea that I always hear a lot of people relate us to the gamer world is just, I think that's only the online perception of the gloving community, but who knows. But he would say that he would be proud of me because even though I'm not pulling in the biggest numbers, and I'm probably not the most liked person in the gloving community, or even a known person, which, you know, I really stopped caring if people know me or not because I just assume that nobody knows me.
What's homie's name? The parrot or the gloving paradigm or whatever, like he does a pretty decent job. Like he breaks shit down super adeptly.
I know his name is Peter, but I don't know his last name.
Yeah, I just know the gloving paradigm, but I think I have him on Discord, but either way.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was actually said. Yeah, I needed to be reminded of this clip.
It is not unnoticed.
You're doing this, though, Corey, and we appreciate
it's
you.
tough, too.
Congratulations on your victory.
Thank you, Annie.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, even though, just as a side note, I did find it interesting that I had this little comment thing happen on a different channel that I work on, and I just was answering a question that somebody asked on a Reddit in a subreddit, right? And once they respond to me, they're like, "Hey, you're this person." Well, yes, it's nice to have that recognition. I don't really see that as important anymore when it comes to the gloving community. And I don't know why. I just stopped caring. And I know some people are probably going to be in there and be like, well, you should care because you put in all this hard work and all that stuff. Well, yeah, I put in a lot of hard work. And I do this every week. And I've been doing it consistently every week for 3 years. You know, which for some reason that still surprises a lot of people. Like, do you guys not look at my page? Do you guys not look at my YouTube channel? Do you guys not look at the stuff that I put out? Like, come on. Not only that, I will certainly say that I don't like algorithms. I don't like how the algorithm plays around, and I don't like how the algorithm changes up so many times that you have to sit there and constantly watch it every day and literally be in a set of anxiety, because I will certainly say the first 6 months of me switching over to video, yeah, I was paying very carefully to the algorithm and doing everything I can to align to the algorithm, and all it did was cause burnout. So, as a parting note to anybody who's thinking about making content for gloving, if you do, congratulations. I'm very happy for you. I'm very excited that you want to do that. Please do it. Do do not let what the reflection of the community, as some people like to put out there, as a barrier for you to do it. You know what I mean? I call myself the cringiest Glover on YouTube because somebody called me cringy. You know, gave me the benefit of the doubt, and it says that I'm still pretty cringe, so they stopped watching. I embraced it. Why? Because I'm me. And if you think that I'm cringy, then fine, you think I'm cringy. But I'm not going to let you or anybody's opinion like that deter me from what I want to do. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've taken away, is that, you know, your audience, you don't construct it. It constructs itself. Because, you know, I could put out many gloving videos of me putting out light shows and finger shows and all that stuff. And depending on where it's being posted, it'll get a good amount of views, or it doesn't get any views at all, or just doesn't get any reactions whatsoever. So, you know, people are going to gravitate to you because what they like. You know what I mean? And to try to sit here and say that, you know, everybody should be watching it, I mean, as much as I would like to say that, I'm the type of person who says, give the content a chance before you just jump on it and just say it's crap. Give the creators their due diligence of hearing them out, because sometimes they actually make some good quality content. But if you're some of those people who think I just make consistently bad content, well, okay. Well, what are you going to do about helping people make better content? And this resounding silence towards helping people in the community is very interesting. So, I can sit here and talk all day about like how Sebastian would feel, but one of the things that I will walk away from recording this episode is just letting you guys know some of the things I've heard. So when I've asked a lot of people in the community, hey, why do you think my podcast is the way it is in terms of viewerships and subscribers and all that stuff? Surprisingly enough, a lot of people came to the same consensus to me, is that my reception of my content is more a reflection on the community itself.
What is that supposed to mean?
Now, what do we mean by that? Well, gloving has been in a lull. You know, a very big lull. And why that is, it's kind of beyond my understanding, but I can point to a few things that would make sense. Now, I'm going to bar the last 2 years, basically, from this, because that's something that none of us had control over, and that changed everything within society. So to sit here and say that, well, 2020 happened and it ruined everything for gloving, no, we were already going through a lulling period well before that even happened. You know, I would say 2018 into 2019 was starting this little lull effect happening, right? And yes, 2020, 2021 has exacerbated that. However, things are changing enough to where things should be changing. You know, things are starting to open up again. So hopefully that kind of stuff starts to change, and you know, we actually get more new faces, new thoughts, new blood into the community. Because a lot of people that I talked to about it really actually said that if you take a look around and actually look at the numbers in terms of like the Facebook groups, the subreddits, the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff, there's not a lot of new blood coming in to the community. Like, yes, we are getting tricklings of people coming in. You know, a lot of the newer people that I've been working with or conversing with have been on Discord. So there are other platforms that the newer generation of glovers are showing up on that for some reason a lot of the older generations who are still on the Facebook train are saying that gloving is dying and gloving is, going on a decline. I think that's more of a reflection on the community itself in terms of the community trying to change and adapt.
How dare you?
So that's something that I am going to be taking away from my experience and understanding of this whole thing, is that I do need to change and to adapt. Does that mean I'm going to have to use new social media platforms? Technically, yes, but
Just
do it! Really don't want to. If you haven't noticed already, I really don't like social media anymore. It's just...
We know.
So yeah, I'm going to be trying out new ideas, trying new things, and actually trying to get a little bit more consistent with implementing these changes for myself. You know, and hopefully that sparks more of an influx of new people getting into the hobby. You know what I mean? Because we need more people. That's how the community grows. That's how the hobby grows. That's how the hobby evolves. You know what I mean? So definitely want to put that out there. But I think that pretty much covers everything I want to talk about. I really don't think I can keep... Well, I technically could keep going, but I don't think you guys want to sit there and me ramble on for another 20 to 30 minutes. I think I already ate up enough time as it is. So, if you're an aspiring content creator who's thinking about making content for gloving, please do so. We need more of us out there to make content. You know what I mean? Like, there's a small handful of us, and not only that, the small handful of us who consistently make content make it so far and few in between, except for one who makes it consistently every week. We do have other people who are trying out new things. Streaming is another place that we can also explore. I know Jess has been trying out streaming on his YouTube channel, which has been working out really well for him. He's been enjoying it. So to me, the way I look at it, as long as he's enjoying the way that he's making content, that's all that matters. Because if you're not enjoying the content you're making, why are you making content? I mean, now granted, yes, content making burnout is a thing. Creator burnout is a thing. I deal with it a lot. I can't tell you the number of times I've hit burnout myself when it comes to making content. But those are things that you're going to experience, and I will certainly say if you are able to push past those experiences to keep going, who knows, you can be like me one day where you're just wake up one morning and you're like, I've been doing something like this for 3 years now, and it's kind of crazy to think. But yep, that's pretty much all for my episode. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say in this video. Or audio podcast, if you guys are still listening to the audio podcast. Kudos on you guys. Thanks for still listening. But if you have any questions for me, you have the various places on social media you can hit me up. They're all linked in the description below, not only on my videos, but on my audio-only portion podcast. You can find all that information down there. Trust me, it's there for a reason. Do not hesitate to click on it. And of course, besides just liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel, you also have a wonderful opportunity to help me out making better content by donating to my Ko-Fi. So yes, please donate to my Ko-Fi so I may continue to listen to lo-fi. Alright! Because seriously, that funds a lot of things that allows me to do the things I need to do. But yeah, other than that, I certainly hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Thank you to everybody who has been listening and following along as long as you guys have. I know it's been kind of crazy to think that 3 years has passed since I started this project and still going. So we'll see what the next 3 years brings. But other than that, thank you guys so much. But I am your host, Peter, aka LPD Dubuque, and I'll see you guys all next week.